Imagine standing in a room full of people, each one holding a sign that tells you something about themselves, their favorite color, whether they bought a product, or what kind of animal they're holding in a picture. You're handed a blank sign and asked, "What should yours say?" You look around. Who do you turn to for help? That's the heart of the K-nearest neighbors algorithm, or KNN for short. It's one of the most intuitive and accessible machine learning techniques, and yet, remarkably powerful. What is KNN, really? KNN isn't like other algorithms that train models ahead of time. It's what we call a lazy learner. That means it doesn't build a model during training. Instead, it memorizes the entire dataset. And when it's time to make a prediction, it compares your new data point to all the others it has seen. Think of it as an algorithm that says, "Let me check with my neighbors before I answer." How does it work? Let's say you're trying to predict whether a new customer will buy a product. Here's how KNN would approach it. 1. First, you pick a number, K, which tells the algorithm how many neighbors to consult. Maybe it's 3, 5, or 7. 2. Then, for your new customer, KNN calculates how close they are to every customer in the training data. Usually, this means using Euclidean distance, the straight-line distance between 2 points. 3. Once it identifies the K closest customers, it checks what decision they made. 4. Finally, it tallies the votes. If most of those similar customers bought the product, your new customer is predicted to do the same. And just like that, the algorithm speaks, not based on complex formulas, but on similarity and consensus. What about distance? Distance matters. The closer the neighbor, the more influence it has. While Euclidean distance is the most common, there are other ways to measure closeness. For example, Manhattan distance for grid-like paths, Minkowski distance for custom scaling, and cosine similarity when dealing with text or vectorized data. Each metric tells a slightly different story. Choosing the right one depends on your data and your goals. Regression? No problem. KNN doesn't just vote, it can also average. In regression tasks, instead of counting how many neighbors fall into a category, it simply takes their numerical values and computes the average. So, if you're predicting a house price, and the 3 nearest homes sold for $300,000, $320,000, and $310,000, KNN would predict $310,000. Simple, smooth, intuitive. Where does KNN shine? It excels in small to medium-sized datasets, and it's perfect when you need fast, reliable decisions with minimal setup. You'll find KNN in systems that recommend movies or products, recognize handwritten digits, cluster customers based on behavior, or even diagnose diseases based on symptom similarity. But there are limitations. KNN isn't magic. It has its quirks. First, it doesn't scale well to large datasets. Since it compares a new point to every other point in the data, predictions can be slow when the dataset grows. Second, it's sensitive to irrelevant features. Imagine trying to match people based on eye color when what really matters is income and location. That's why feature scaling and selection are critical. And choosing the right K is an art in itself. If K is too small, your predictions might be noisy or overly reactive. Too large, and the algorithm could become biased, washing out nuance. And finally, KNN can struggle with high-dimensional data like text or images unless you reduce and preprocess them first. Let's walk through an example. You're trying to classify an animal in a picture. Your new image is compared to 3 others in your dataset, one labeled cat, one labeled dog, and another labeled cat. Since 2 out of 3 neighbors say cat, your prediction? It's a cat. That's KNN in action. It mimics how we humans often make decisions, by asking those around us. In summary, K-nearest neighbors is a beautifully human algorithm, simple, social, and based on proximity and majority. It doesn't require complex tuning, and it often gives surprisingly strong results with little effort. Whether you're building a recommendation engine, grouping customers, or solving a classification puzzle, KNN gives you a powerful tool, grounded not in theory, but in observation. Sometimes, the best answers come from the company we keep.